Tonight's pot roast is off limits to you. Here, have this instead. But this is leftover soup and salad from 2 days ago. It might have gone bad. You can handle it, right? Don't be wasteful. Eat up. I don't want to waste good meat on you. I can eat this. What was that? Leftovers are perfect for you. Stop complaining and eat up. My mother-in-law always directs such nastiness towards me. She's so obnoxious, it just gets under my skin. My name is Mary, a 27-year-old woman juggling both work and home responsibilities. I got married only a year ago, so I don't have any kids yet. Right now, we're living with my husband's family in their house. I never wanted to live with my in-laws, but since my husband is the eldest son, we didn't have much choice. I thought it was ridiculous to live with my in-laws in this day and age, but both my husband and my mother-in-law hold on to old-fashioned values. Moreover, my father-in-law is no longer with us, and my husband expressed his concern for his mother. I have no idea what he's worried about. She's still so full of life. My brother-in-law is single and working overseas, so I guess that's just how it has to be. But I still hate it. Now even my husband has started being mean to me, following in his mother's footsteps. He never said anything mean before we got married, but his attitude changed drastically. I feel deceived. He's always acting superior and he always yells at me. It gives me a headache. Hey you, why is my shirt so wrinkled? Ha, is it wrinkled? Yeah, I'll be embarrassed at work like this. Can't you even iron properly? Why can't you do something so simple? No, I did iron it. Your properly is not proper at all. Realize that. What a useless wife you are. That's so mean. You don't have to say it like that. Are you talking back to me? Your face is as wrinkled as this shirt, and you're annoying. Seriously, you look older than you are. It's a turnoff. Oh really? Before we got married, he used to call me adorable. He treated me like a princess. But now he insults my parents and laughs about it. I don't understand why he would say such a thing. I'm not wrinkled or anything. It crossed my mind that he's actually balding for his age. I even found myself wishing that he would go completely bald one day. Our marriage is still pretty new, but I'm concerned about the future. Sometimes the word divorce even flashes through my mind. I was exhausted every day, and once I finished the housework after getting home from work, I felt like I was about to collapse. But my mother-in-law never helped with the chores. She seems to spend her whole day blankly watching TV. There were crumbs from snacks on the floor in front of the TV, and a lot of them. I had to clean them up, and I wish she would at least use a plate. Then, after dinner one day, my mother-in-law started to speak. Hey, let's all go to a spa resort when the new year comes. Oh, that sounds great, I replied. All right, I'll make the reservation. I'll get on it first thing tomorrow. Thanks, Mom, my husband said, beaming with joy. My husband and mother-in-law seemed very happy. I didn't really want to go with these people, but I was interested in the spa resort itself. I love visiting spa resorts, and this one was famous enough to be featured on TV recently. I thought it could be a great memory if I could ignore these annoying people, so inside, I was actually excited. After this, my mother-in-law said she had something to discuss. I wondered what it was and headed to the living room. You know we only have a small car, right? So, I was hoping we could borrow your family's minivan. After all, we can load lots of luggage in it. Alright, I guess my father has both a minivan and a small car. He usually commutes in the small car and uses the minivan for shopping trips or camping, which is his hobby. When I called my father, he readily agreed to lend it to us. With that, we welcomed the end of the year vacation. I had to clean the house, so it was again incredibly busy. However, thinking that a spa resort was waiting for me after getting through this year-end period helped me push through. As expected, my mother-in-law wouldn't move from the sofa. She laid there all the time, looking like a statue. Then, the morning of New Year's Day arrived. I woke up thinking about the long-awaited spa resort, but was surprised when I looked at the alarm clock. I had overslept. What? It's already 8:30, but David isn't here. Why? My husband, who should have been sleeping next to me, wasn't there either. I thought he might be in the bathroom, but he wasn't. Huh? Where is everyone? Did they go somewhere? I peeked into my mother-in-law's bedroom, but she wasn't there either. I began to wonder if they left without me. In a panic, I checked my smartphone. I always charge my phone in the living room before going to bed. There was a text notification on my smartphone. It was from my mother-in-law. We're going to have fun. We never booked a place for you. You can spend a lonely New Year. It's okay if the bride doesn't come. So my mother-in-law never intended to take me with them from the start. and she planned to enjoy it with my husband. I was really sad at the same time. I was also very angry. It's terrible to deliberately stop my alarm clock to make me oversleep. I suspect the reason she made me drink a lot of alcohol the night before was to make me pass out. I regretted drinking that much, although it's a relief that she didn't drug me. I was irritated about her pushing drinks on me. Well, there's nothing I can do even if I get angry, so I decided I had to enjoy myself alone at home. I really wanted to go home to my parents, but they're also away on a trip by plane, so it's pointless to go back. Though I ordered a pizza for delivery that day and spent a lonely day. Then my mother-in-law and husband returned from their trip. They had brought smiles on their faces. It was so fun. It was the best. I want to stay there again, of course, without you, Mary. Here, this is the souvenir. What is this? It's a stone I found lying around. It suits you perfectly. Oh, is that so? I couldn't help but think that my mother-in-law was extremely spiteful. Frustrated, I went to return the minivan to my parents' house. I thought they would be home by now. When I arrived at my parents' house, my father came to greet me. Did you enjoy the spa resort? That famous spa should have been quite satisfying. I didn't go because I'm the bride. Well, I was told by my mother-in-law that it's fine if the bride doesn't come. I was left behind when I woke up in the morning. No one was there. What? After that, my father started to do something. Then he had me sit in the passenger seat of the minivan and started driving. The car was headed back to my in-laws' house. When I glanced at my father's face as he drove, he seemed to be angry. Well, any father would get angry if their daughter was treated that way. But I was taken aback because I had never seen such a look on my usually calm father's face. Then my father stormed into my in-laws' house with something in his hand. My mother-in-law came out. Oh, hello, and Happy New Year. Sorry for borrowing your minivan. Happy New Year. Speaking of which, you left our daughter behind, didn't you? No, Mary said she had a fever and couldn't go, so we had to leave her behind reluctantly. I even offered to take care of her. My mother-in-law was lying through her teeth with a smirk on her face. She definitely never said anything like that, and I wasn't even sick with a cold. I wondered how she could tell such an obvious lie. I thought something must be wrong with her brain. Oh, really? But our daughter said she was left behind. She told us she received a message on text saying it's fine if the bride doesn't come. Did I say that? I don't remember. You did. Look at this text. I showed her the text messages. However, she still insisted she was innocent. I was surprised at how thick-skinned she was to still deny it even cornered this far. In a sense, it was admirable. You're still saying that, huh? You're truly a sad person. Oh, by the way, can I charge you for the cleaning of the car interior? What? Why? Because you dirtied it with a married man nonetheless? What a filthy and disgusting scene. What? What are you talking about? This right here. What my father had in his hand was a dash cam. This one has dual cameras, so it can record not only the outside but also the inside of the car. The advantage of being able to record the inside of the car is that it can provide evidence that you were driving safely. My mother-in-law doesn't know much about car supplies or cars in general, so there's a chance she didn't realize this was a dual camera. But what was she doing with a married man in the first place? I regretted watching the footage that my father played back. After all, there were images of my mother-in-law in an indecent posture with an unknown man. Even though my father-in-law is no longer in this world, it's insane to do such a thing with a married man. And what on earth was she doing in her family car? This was on the exact day you borrowed the car. Oh, how disgusting. Wait, this doesn't mean we were doing anything dirty. It's not something perverted. My mother-in-law was in a panic, fumbling and stammering on the spot. Tears welled up in her eyes. She was on the brink of crying. I found myself curious and somewhat amused about when she would finally break down. Maybe I'm being cruel, but after all the time she tormented me, she deserves this much. I couldn't be sympathetic or kind to someone like her. Then she began making pathetic excuses. Her reasoning was all over the place. It was clear she was flustered, yet she was desperate to defend herself. Suddenly, my father pulled another item from his pocket. It was a photograph. The picture showed my mother-in-law and the man from the video engaged in assorted acts in broad daylight. It was unthinkable. The background of the picture suggested it took place somewhere secluded, but the audacity to do this in the daytime was still shocking. You wouldn't have seen these if you hadn't been mean to my dear Mary. Why do you have that picture? Because I'm a detective, remember? Oh, do you recall now? Look, I've been telling you this all along, haven't I? My father is a detective, which explains why he had such a photograph. Coincidentally, the wife of the married man in the picture had hired him for an infidelity investigation. It turns out the wife of this man hired me to investigate her husband's affair. I was surprised to discover you were the other woman. I was going to inform her next week, but I didn't expect to show you this so soon. Ha! No, I'm innocent. I was just forced into an unpleasant situation. I am not at fault. Please don't tell his wife. It was against your will, was it? You seem to be enjoying yourself. We also have video footage of you whispering sweet words to the man. Do you want to see it? I'm sorry. My mother-in-law collapsed to her knees and burst into tears. I watched her in a pitiful state with a cold glare. Sensing the unusual situation, my husband arrived. I had run out of patience with him too, and I proposed a divorce. I've had enough. I want to end this. Let's get divorced. What? I'll go crazy if I stay in this horrible family any longer, so I'm leaving. Hold on. What will happen to our living expenses if you leave? I was fired a while ago. My husband dropped a bombshell. Apparently, he had been fired at the end of the year. I was taken aback. As he had not told me this despite knowing his job was terminated, he had still decided to go on a spa resort trip. He was a complete fool. I felt I had no choice but to divorce him. I took off my wedding ring and left it there. My husband desperately tried to stop me. Wait, can't you forgive me for not taking you on the spa resort trip? It's not just about the trip. I don't want to be with you or your mother anymore. If you want to live with your mother that much, then go ahead, you mama's boy. Please wait, don't go. I got a lawyer and proceeded with a divorce. My ex-husband seems to be having trouble managing his living expenses now that I'm gone. I thought he should find a new job quickly, but having been fired from his last job for theft, he'll probably struggle to find a new one. His previous company had fired him because he had been caught stealing. Apparently, they decided they couldn't trust him and didn't need someone like that. Unsurprisingly, the wife of my mother-in-law's lover demanded compensation for the affair. She ended up spending all the money left by my father-in-law to settle the payment. I haven't seen my ex-husband or ex-mother-in-law since, but I imagine they're probably living the hard life. It doesn't matter to me anymore. Currently, I'm living alone and enjoying my work. I made the right decision not to have a child with my ex-husband. Now I am enjoying a peaceful life and would be happy if I found a new love if such an opportunity arises. This is my plan to make sure to choose wisely. Hey everyone, I'm Camila, and I want to tell you about my life. I grew up without a lot of money, but my husband Jackson had a totally different childhood. His family was rich, and he even started his own successful business. I have a good job too, but I still feel connected to my middle-class background. The only problem is my mother-in-law Addison. Dealing with Addison was like trying to navigate through a storm. But Jackson's dad, Grayson, was great. Addison, though, enjoyed putting me down and making me feel small about my family's money situation. She criticized us in private and even in public. Jackson always had my back, but Addison's insults never stopped. It got so bad that I thought about leaving Jackson because I didn't want to deal with his family anymore. But Jackson's love and support kept me going. He was amazing, unlike his mom. With time, I got better at handling Addison's behavior. So when she showed up with a flashy wedding dress right after we booked the venue, it didn't surprise me. She proudly showed off the dress, asking us what we thought. Isn't it amazing? It's from that fancy bridal shop you guys couldn't afford with your wedding budget, she said, not hiding her dislike. When I mentioned that her dress was too fancy for the occasion, she glared at me, clearly upset. I felt really uncomfortable then, not knowing how to handle her extravagant behavior, especially since Jackson and I were planning a simple wedding with just 60 guests to save money. We didn't want to spend too much, so I found a simple wedding dress that fit our budget. But Addison's dress was way too flashy. It was so extravagant that it would definitely steal the spotlight from me at my own wedding. It was obvious she picked it on purpose, knowing it would make a big statement. When I gently suggested she wear something else, Addison got really mad. How dare you tell me what to wear? I spent $125,000 on this dress. Do you really think I'd waste that money? I'm wearing it, no questions asked. Jackson tried to step in, saying, Mom, listen to Camila. That dress isn't right for our small wedding. Please pick something more suitable. But Addison wouldn't change her mind. No way, Jackson. I love this dress. I'm not settling for some random dress like your wife. I have my own standards. It's my big day too as the mother of the groom, she insisted, ignoring how ridiculous she sounded. Jackson, surprised, argued back, Addison, it's not your big day. Stop trying to steal all the attention. You're not wearing that dress to our wedding. The argument got intense quickly. Addison refused to give up on the dress, leading to a heated exchange between her, Jackson, and Grayson. The tension got so bad that we had to leave early without resolving the issue. Jackson was frustrated, saying, I can't believe my mom would do this. She's being unreasonable. Maybe she shouldn't even come to the wedding. But kicking Addison out of the wedding could make things worse. If we disinvite her, she might make an even bigger scene. She doesn't keep promises and she does whatever she wants. We need to think of a smarter solution, I suggested, thinking about what might happen if we excluded her from such an important day. Jackson was frustrated too, admitting how badly his mother had treated my family and me over the years. I'm tired of her insults and disrespect. It has to stop. She can't ruin our wedding. So we agreed. We needed a plan that would keep Addison from causing trouble without making her suspicious or angry. As time passed, Addison stuck to her decision, leaving us to plan carefully to keep our wedding focused on our love, not her showing off. We all agreed that we needed a smart plan to handle the situation. So Jackson, Grayson, and I got together to figure it out. We were tired of her disruptions and all wanted to make sure she didn't take over our wedding. After talking it through, we came up with a plan and quietly started putting it into action, making sure Addison didn't catch on. We stopped talking to her about the dress and only gave her basic information about the wedding, which didn't bother her much since she was too busy trying to outshine me. Just a few days before the wedding, we were having dinner at my in-laws, and Addison couldn't contain her excitement. I can't wait for your wedding, Jackson. I've been thinking about it for so long. My dress and jewelry are all ready to shine. It's going to be such a special day, she said, clearly thrilled, though it was obvious she was most excited about showing herself off. It will be special, especially because I'll be marrying Camila, Jackson responded subtly, trying to bring the focus back to us, the real reason for the celebration. But Addison quickly made it about herself again. Sure, Camila will look nice, but next to me in my expensive dress, I doubt it. I spent a lot to make sure I stand out. Hearing this, I couldn't help but admire Addison's boldness, insisting she was better and planning to steal the spotlight from the bride on her big day. Jackson complimented Addison's dress to keep things calm, while I silently appreciated his support, squeezing his hand under the table. Grayson, always the wise and calming presence, played a crucial role in our plan. He gently teased Addison, pointing out how strange it was for her to make such big plans for a wedding that wasn't hers. Addison, you're really going all out for a wedding that's not even yours. Shouldn't we focus on the couple getting married? His remarks subtly reminded everyone of the real reason for the celebration, steering the conversation away from Addison's self-centered plans without causing more trouble. This clever move was an important part of our strategy to handle the situation gracefully, making sure the wedding stayed a happy occasion for us and our guests, not just a platform for Addison's ego. As the wedding drew near, Addison insisted on having only the best makeup artist for herself. For my son's big day, I need top-notch treatment. After all, I'm the mother of the groom, she declared. She was determined not to mingle with guests she felt were beneath her, especially while wearing her expensive jewelry, fearing it might get stolen by those unfamiliar with such luxury. Grayson had a clever idea. Why not get ready at home? It's safer and more comfortable, especially with all your plans, he suggested. Addison loved the idea of making a grand entrance and praised Grayson's thoughtfulness, unaware of our hidden agenda. Grayson exchanged a knowing look with us, showing that our plan was going smoothly. Caught up in her own excitement, Addison didn't realize she was falling into our trap. The thought of her surprise on the wedding day brought quiet satisfaction to Jackson and me. Even though I wish I could see her reaction in person, knowing the plan was in motion allowed me to focus on the joy of the upcoming wedding, feeling a sense of relief. While there was a slight worry about the plan being discovered, Jackson and our supportive friends helped ease those concerns. Everything was organized perfectly, reigniting my excitement for the special day. After months of stress, I felt genuinely thrilled about our wedding for the first time in a while. It was shaping up to be a celebration of our love, free from any outside drama. As the wedding morning arrived, bright and beautiful, it felt like the start of a new chapter we had been eagerly waiting for. The weather was perfect, adding to the joy of the day. Grayson, my amazing father-in-law, was the first to arrive at the venue, well before the rest of us. He stopped by to check on me, and despite my nerves, he'd assured me that everything was going according to plan. "Don't worry, dear," he reassured me, explaining his early arrival was due to Addison's difficult behavior. "Her makeup artist won't be here for another hour. We have plenty of time." I felt immensely grateful for Grayson's support. "Thank you so much, Grayson. I can't express how much this means to me," I told him. He smiled warmly, reminding me that I was now part of the family and assuring me that the day would unfold just as we had envisioned. His presence was a comfort, especially considering the challenge of dealing with Addison as my mother-in-law. I felt fortunate to have Grayson by my side. After checking in on me, Grayson made his way to where Jackson and I were getting ready for the ceremony. The day was shaping up to be everything I had ever dreamed of. I'll always remember the look of love on Jackson's face as I walked towards him, escorted by my uncle. Both of us were overcome with emotion, surrounded by our closest friends and family, with Grayson's supportive presence adding to the moment. As for Addison, her grand entrance didn't go as planned. Dressed in her expensive gown and covered in diamonds, she expected all eyes to be on her. But when she arrived at the venue, she was in for a surprise. It was empty. Confused and a bit panicked, she called Jackson, her voice filled with disbelief. "Jackson, what's going on? Why is nobody here?" she asked, clearly caught off guard by the turn of events. Addison frantically searched for us at the venue, puzzled by the absence of familiar faces. Jackson broke the news. She wasn't at the right place because she hadn't been invited to the real wedding. Her confusion quickly turned to disbelief, eliciting laughter and amusement from our side. Even Grayson struggled to contain his laughter, finding the situation quite amusing. As Addison pressed for answers, insisting she was speaking with Jackson and not me, her confusion grew deeper. Jackson calmly explained that although the venue she was at had been booked initially, we had chosen a different location for our ceremony. Learning that the wedding had already happened without her left Addison in disbelief, questioning why she hadn't been informed earlier. Jackson, growing impatient, pointed out that her exclusion was intentional, a decision made to prevent the disruptions her presence might cause. Despite his explanation, Addison couldn't believe that her own son would go to such lengths to keep her from his wedding. The conversation heated up as Jackson confronted her about the unnecessary drama surrounding her dress and her attempts to steal the spotlight from the bride. His firm stance surprised Addison, who struggled to come to terms with the consequences of her actions. Jackson's firm assertion that the day belonged to him and his wife, not to his mother, marked a clear end to the dispute, highlighting the significance of the occasion for the couple over any individual's desire for attention. Jackson emphasized that he would no longer tolerate Addison's disruptive behavior, making it clear that the wedding day was about him and his wife, not anyone else. After delivering this message, he ended the call. Despite Addison's continued attempts to reach him and multiple calls to Grayson, we went on to celebrate our reception surrounded by loved ones, undisturbed by the unfolding drama. During a moment alone, I noticed a call from Addison on my phone. Preparing myself, I answered, only to be met with accusations and insults. She blamed me for her exclusion from the wedding, accusing me of manipulating her son and labeling me a gold digger, envious of her potential to outshine me on my own wedding day. I calmly refuted her claims with facts, explaining that Jackson makes his own decisions based on what he believes is right, and his choice to exclude her was his own, though I did not try to influence him. Undeterred, Addison threatened to crash the reception, claiming she was already outside. I brushed off her threats with a mix of disbelief and indifference, reassuring her that she would find no support here. Returning to the reception, I braced myself for whatever scene might unfold. As expected, Addison's attempt to enter the venue quickly escalated. Dressed in her extravagant gown and denied entry by security, she epitomized frustration and entitlement, her actions bordering on the absurd. Rather than garnering sympathy, this spectacle only reaffirmed our decision to keep her away from our celebration. The guests, aware of the situation, rallied behind us, leaving no room for Addison's theatrics to disrupt our special day. Her attempt to steal the spotlight didn't end in triumph, but in a public display of her own making, starkly contrasting with the joy and unity inside. The disturbance Addison caused outside the venue quickly caught the attention of our guests, prompting everyone to witness the source of the commotion. When Jackson came across his mother causing a scene, his frustration reached its peak. He confronted her, dismayed by her refusal to respect his wishes and her insistence on blaming his wife. "Mom, what are you doing here? I clearly told you that you weren't invited. Why can't you understand that?" Jackson's patience wore thin as Addison played the victim, accusing him of being manipulated by his wife, whom she labeled as jealous. "Mom, listen to yourself. My wife isn't the problem here. It's you trying to overshadow her with that extravagant dress and jewelry. You knew she had a modest budget. Your actions were meant to belittle her," Jackson argued, hoping to make her realize the selfishness of her behavior. Addison, seeking support, turned to Grayson, hoping he would defend her actions. But Grayson, equally shocked by her behavior, stood by Jackson. "That dress isn't just any dress, Addison. It's practically a wedding gown. How can you not see how inappropriate your actions are? Look around, no one agrees with you," Grayson pointed out, his disappointment clear. Addison's attempt to justify her choice by insulting Camila's family and guests only made the situation worse. "They don't get it because they're from a different background," she argued, clinging to her misguided beliefs about maintaining her supposed class. But Grayson had had enough. "That's it, Addison. I won't let you insult my daughter-in-law and her family any longer. You've crossed the line this time," he declared, standing firm against her unfounded accusations and sense of entitlement. The conflict highlighted the sharp contrast between Addison's self-centeredness and the united front presented by Jackson, Grayson, and the supportive guests. Her attempt to crash the wedding, instead of gaining sympathy, only reinforced her isolation and confirmed the wisdom of excluding her from the ceremony. Grayson's firm defense of my family was a powerful moment for me, showing the depth of support and love I had found within Jackson's family, despite Addison's disruptive presence. This act of solidarity, affirming me as part of the family, was deeply touching, bringing me close to tears. It strengthened my belief that choosing to align my life with Jackson and his family, separate from Addison, was one of the best decisions I had ever made. Shocked and angry at Grayson's rebuke, Addison couldn't understand how her husband could speak against her, especially to defend what she saw as outsiders. She held tight to her beliefs of being superior, criticizing the wedding and our union. But Grayson's response was surprising and definitive. He expressed regret not for our wedding, but for his own with Addison, admitting their marriage was a mistake due to her unbearable behavior. Then he announced his intention to divorce her, leaving Addison speechless. Grayson wasn't alone in his decision. Jackson also cut ties with his mother, prioritizing the well-being of his wife and their future together over Addison's toxic influence. This decision showed a commitment to shield our new family from further turmoil. Addison was shocked and disbelieving. Her reliance on Grayson and Jackson for financial support had been a pillar of her extravagant lifestyle. Grayson's mention of divorce, along with the prenuptial agreements in place, meant Addison stood to lose not only her family but also the financial security she had taken for granted. Her lavish spending, highlighted by the purchase of the expensive dress, had been unsustainable on her own, relying instead on her husband's wealth. The news of impending divorce and our decision to cut ties with Addison marked a turning point for her. The consequences went beyond losing family connections to a harsh financial reality. Her once secure future, buoyed by wealth and status, now looked uncertain, with the protective clauses of prenuptial agreements leaving her with little to claim. This sudden change in circumstances served as a sobering reminder of the cost of her actions and attitudes, highlighting the transformative impact of Grayson and Jackson's decisions on our collective future. Jackson, Grayson, and I had discussed the situation thoroughly, recognizing the need to set boundaries to protect our new family. Grayson had been considering separation from Addison due to long-standing unhappiness, while Jackson and I were determined to shield our relationship from her toxic influence. Addison, taken aback by the realization that her actions had real consequences, had to face the fallout publicly. Her pleas for leniency, framed as an overreaction to a single dress incident, were met with firm rebuttals. It was evident to everyone, especially Jackson and Grayson, that her behavior went far beyond one incident. They pointed out her consistent mistreatment of me as the underlying problem, dismissing her claims of unfairness as baseless. In a last-ditch effort to gain sympathy, Addison turned to me with tears, pleading for forgiveness. She clung to me, painting herself as a remorseful victim of circumstances. Yet her plea lacked sincerity. It quickly turned sour as she resumed name-calling and accused me of tearing her family apart. Her abrupt shift from fake remorse to open hostility only reinforced our decision to distance ourselves from her. Her failure to offer a genuine apology or acknowledge the impact of her actions further alienated her, not just from me but from everyone present. The guests, initially watching quietly, grew increasingly disapproving as Addison's true colors emerged once more. This scene marked a significant moment for our family. It wasn't just about keeping Addison at arm's length. It was about reaffirming our commitment to respect, unity, and the well-being of our shared future. Addison's failed attempt to reconcile, quickly overshadowed by her return to blame and manipulation, only strengthened our determination. The way forward was evident, marked by a united stance against toxicity and a shared commitment to nurturing a supportive and loving environment free from past grievances. Jackson acted swiftly. Without allowing Addison a chance to argue, he instructed security to escort her out. Meanwhile, both sides of the family and our friends openly criticized her behavior. It was a moment of validation as we watched her being escorted away, allowing us to resume our celebration surrounded by genuine supporters. The very next day, Grayson took decisive action. He returned home only to inform Addison to leave their shared residence and had his lawyers serve her with divorce papers. Her attempts to sway Grayson with tears, screams, and threats in front of the lawyer were futile. When she attempted to approach us, seeking an ally or a way to disrupt our peace, we made a conscious choice not to engage, safeguarding our new life together from her drama. Our phones and social media became Addison-free zones, eliminating any avenue for her to reach out. As for Addison's outcome, it was swift and fair. The divorce left her in financial hardship, her attempts at manipulation proving futile. Her pleas for help went unanswered, forcing her to face the consequences of her actions alone. Eventually, she returned to her hometown, hoping to rebuild her life and reputation, seeking employment and a fresh start. These developments brought us profound relief and closure. With Addison's turbulent influence no longer present, our lives thrived. We hope she finds a path forward that keeps her away from us, allowing us to move on from this chapter without further discord. My family's leaving my niece with us. They think we should be happy about it. At the door are my husband's parents and his sister, with her 2-year-old daughter. They've been asking us to look after her since they got divorced half a year ago. Instead of easing off, they're insisting we take her, even though we're not in a position to raise someone else's child. But things are about to take a surprising turn with this little girl. I'm Kelly Allen, and I'm 27. I married John, who's 29 and was running a restaurant when we got married 3 years ago. We hoped to have kids, but it didn't happen. Luckily, Jan has been really kind to us, making our lives busy but fun. I've hardly seen John's family since we got married because he's not close to them. The gap between them got bigger when he opened his restaurant. His parents worked at a big family restaurant chain, and they wanted him to join too. But John had his own dreams. I want to make dishes that everyone will love, John explained. But instead of understanding him, his sister treated him like he was attacking their family's restaurant chain. Are you saying our food isn't good enough? John must have found it frustrating that she wouldn't listen. After endless arguments, John gave up trying to convince them. I'd rather keep my distance from Mom and Dad. Okay, I'll stay out of it too, I told him, and we enjoyed our peaceful days together. But everything changed when Jan divorced and moved back in with their parents 6 months ago. One weekday during lunch rush, Jan burst into the restaurant. I'm here again. It's so quiet in here, she loudly announced, bringing her mother and her 2-year-old niece. They sat down without hesitation. You're back. Remember to keep it down, John reminded her. Always complaining. Anyway, I'll have the usual and make it quick. Jane never pays when she visits, and we were getting tired of it. I signaled to John that I'd handle it and stepped in front of Jan. There are other customers waiting, so if you're dining here, you'll need to pay like everyone else. What? You're actually charging family? How low can you get? Jan's outburst drew the attention of everyone in the restaurant. Please lower your voice, it's disturbing others, I politely requested, but she ignored me. This is all your fault. John's changed because of you. Her harsh words froze the atmosphere. My husband, stopping his cooking, emerged from the kitchen. If you're here to cause trouble, please leave. We can discuss any issues later. We'll address any concerns you have, so please stop causing a scene. But Jan continued to complain, ignoring both me and my husband. Even her mother, instead of reprimanding her, just urged her to hurry up and order. Seeing that we couldn't defuse the situation, we served them lunch. They left without paying, acting as if it was normal. But it didn't end there. Jan became even more demanding. You're looking after Riker today too. Every day, she declared, dropping off her daughter at our shop. But we're working. It's your job as a mom to take care of her, I protested. I'm busy. Since there are hardly any customers, you might as well help me out, Jan insisted, pushing her daughter's care onto us. To her, we were just free babysitters. To fully unload her responsibilities, Jan and her mother started visiting our restaurant frequently. I'm sorry about my family. I didn't mean to cause trouble for you or the restaurant, Kelly, John S. apologized after they left Riker behind and left. Our business wasn't booming and their disruptions were part of the problem. Our regular customers, who preferred a peaceful atmosphere, stopped coming. It wasn't just about John anymore. Poor Riker was caught in the middle. Holding my niece close, I sighed deeply. We kept going despite the weight on our hearts. But a few weeks later, things took an unexpected turn with my in-laws. One evening, after closing the restaurant, Jan and my in-laws appeared at our doorstep. Instead of at the restaurant, they were at our house. When John and I opened the door, Jan abruptly handed Riker to us, looking bewildered. I'm leaving my child with you. Appreciate it. John and I were stunned, our eyes wide. What do you mean? I asked, though I suspected it was because we couldn't have kids. You're not busy since the restaurant is quiet, right? So you can be Riker's parents, she explained, deciding to completely abandon her niece. Even the grandparents didn't want to care for her. John's face flushed with anger at their callousness. This is too much. You're giving up on Riker. That's not right. I thought you guys, without kids, could handle her, Jan said, her tone tense. Riker, sensing the tension, nervously sucked her finger and looked down. But you don't have to worry about that. Take her back, I firmly replied. Kids need their moms. Even a 2-year-old knows that. You can't refuse. If there was a serious reason, maybe, but I can't agree to selfish excuses like it's too much trouble. I rejected her request firmly. We're busy with work, and honestly, I don't find a child with my ex-husband's blood cute at all. I said, shocked at my own words. That's something a parent should never say, especially not in front of Riker. It's unacceptable. My in-laws sided with her, sharing her views. Jan and her parents would only make this poor child suffer, they said. Realizing this, I held Riker close, feeling a strong sense of duty. I have to make this child happy. So are you really okay with Riker being our child? I asked Jan firmly. She smirked. Of course, and I'll sell you all her baby stuff and toys. I don't need them anymore, so you better buy everything, she said, her parents smirking behind her. Not only were they avoiding their responsibilities, but they also wanted to make money from us. They were beyond redemption, but if it meant cutting ties with them, it was a win for us. When I talked to John about it, he agreed. Yes, we'll buy everything you're selling. But in return, stay away from us, I told them firmly. Jan stepped closer, asserting, don't act so superior. You're just a daughter-in-law. I was going to sell them anyway. Just be prepared for a big bill. After using us to their advantage, Jan and her parents left in a hurry. True to her word, Jan sent a box of Riker's used toys and clothes, along with a hefty bill of $30,000. With the restaurant struggling and our finances stretched thin, I couldn't afford such extravagance for Riker. But I still had some savings from before I got married. No, this is too expensive. It shouldn't cost that much, I muttered nervously. Despite my concerns about depleting our savings, using items Riker was familiar with might provide her with comfort, right? As I anxiously waited for a response, as I watched my husband in silent contemplation, he finally agreed with me. You're right. Rhea would be happier with us than in her old home. Thank you, honey. Let's take care of this child together. And so, we ended up raising Rhea as our own daughter, alongside managing the restaurant. Without the in-laws around, Our stress lessened, and both my husband and I cherished Rare deeply. She was so sweet, and I felt inspired to do anything for her. But our lives weren't just about adding a new family member. What a busy day it's been. Indeed, who would have thought our restaurant would be so packed? At the end of a long day, my husband and I shared a laugh. Our once quiet restaurant was now booming thanks to a recent addition to the menu, an omelette that had unexpectedly gone viral on social media. What surprised us the most was how this idea came about. Who would have guessed it was Rare's suggestion? As I affectionately patted her head, I recounted. While we were brainstorming new menu items, Rare suddenly said omelette. It caught us off guard. Since we didn't offer omelettes at the time, I whipped up a special one loaded with eggs and topped it with our signature demi glace sauce. Following John's approach, we personalized each serving to suit our customers' tastes. It turned out to be a huge hit, and Rhea continued to lend a hand whenever I experimented with new dishes. She'd mumble names like Napoleon or pudding, and when John whipped up those dishes, they were a hit. Customers would exclaim, "This is exactly what I was craving," and happily dig in. With the old challenges of running the restaurant behind us, life became more exciting with Rare around. I couldn't help but wonder if Rare possessed some mysterious power. It seemed possible. The other day, when I couldn't find my glasses, Rare was just staring behind a shelf. Lo and behold, there they were, packed behind it. Wow, Rare, that's incredible. Of course, it was all thanks to John's setup. When we praised them, Rare and my husband would exchange happy smiles. They looked like they had always been a part of our family. Initially worried, I now felt confident about providing Rare with a good life. Even in ordinary moments, I felt a profound sense of happiness. But then, something unbelievable caught my attention. What's this? Hey, come see this. John, glancing at his phone, exclaimed in surprise. Intrigued, I peered over to look at the screen, where a news article was displayed. The contents shocked me so much that my eyes widened. Can this really happen? Surprised, Rare observed us, then grabbed a box of building blocks and slowly offered it to us. We shook it, hearing something inside. Is there something in here? I asked, meeting Rare's serious gaze. If Rare was this focused, there must be something important. We carefully examined the blocks and were stunned. An underlying anger began to simmer within me. To think she had hidden something like this. Unforgivable. Despite my anger, we knew we had to wait for the right moment. A few weeks later, in the dead of night, Jan and I were startled awake by the doorbell. Careful not to disturb Rare, we cautiously opened the front door to find Jolie standing there with disheveled hair. Give me back my daughter, now. Her sudden demand left John and me exchanging looks. Weren't you the one who left her with us? What's changed now? Weren't we supposed to stay out of each other's lives? I challenged, but before we could shut the door, Jolie forcefully wedged her foot in, refusing to leave. She's my child. I'm here to take her back, she insisted. We explained it wasn't possible, but Jolie kept pushing to take her daughter, causing a scene. Frustrated by her selfishness, I sighed deeply and crossed my arms. Please don't take your frustrations out on us because of your work troubles, I said. Caught off guard, Jolie's face flushed red with embarrassment. What? How did you know about that? She stammered, clearly flustered. Recalling the recent news I had seen on John's phone, it was about a scandal at the chain restaurant where Jolie's family worked. They had been caught using expired ingredients to save money, leading to a widespread food poisoning incident. The backlash on media and social platforms had been severe, and the chain's reputation had taken a nosedive. Everything was fine until we gave up our daughter, and then this happened. It must be because she's gone, I mused. Jolie, clearly facing severe consequences, erupted in anger. What are you talking about? Rare has nothing to do with this. No, she's not involved, I assured her. Since then, everything had been going downhill. According to Jolie, their troubles didn't end there. Her mother lost a wallet containing a large sum of money, and her father was involved in a car accident that cost $6,000 in damages. Jolie blamed Rare for their misfortunes. Since you took Rare, your restaurant has been thriving. It's hard not to think she's involved. Her words left John and me speechless. While we couldn't blame Rare for all their misfortunes, we couldn't deny the strange coincidence. Maybe I should help them a bit. Despite their actions, it's hard to watch them suffer, I pondered aloud. But before I could say more, Jolie raised her voice sharply. With that child, We would be secure, and all this misfortune would come your way instead. Her words extinguished any sympathy I had. We will never give Rur back to you. It's only been a few months, but we've grown to love her as if she were our home. We can't hand her over to someone who only wants her back for their own gain, I declared, glaring at Jolie with a firm expression. Don't speak to my wife like that. Your greed is apparent. I care for Rare far more than you ever did. I won't let her go, no matter what. Please, leave, John added, his tone resolute. I couldn't forgive Jolie for treating her own daughter like a commodity, something to exploit. Our restaurant's success was due to John's meticulous attention to detail, seasoning and presenting each dish according to our customers' preferences. He had utilized hints from Rare to cater to individual tastes, offering rich flavors, light options, or a touch of spice. His creative plating, including edible flowers for Instagram-worthy dishes and generous portions for hearty appetites, had become a hit. While Rare had contributed to our success, it was John's dedication that truly made a difference. She's not a cash cow to be returned, I retorted with disdain. Jolie's face twisted with resentment as Jan looked at her with pity. No matter how much you protest, my decision won't change. I don't want to see you again, Jan stated firmly. With calm resolve, I handed Jolie a flash drive that she hadn't noticed before. Our misfortunes aren't because of Rare, but a consequence of actions like yours, right? Jolie's face paled as she recognized the drive. That's the one my parents and I have been searching for. How did you get it? It came out of the toys, I replied calmly. It might actually be worth what you paid for it, I remarked. The flash drive had been inside the box Rare handed to us, and considering her mysterious abilities, I believed there was a reason she had handled it. To our surprise, the drive contained data from a secret ledger, revealing receipts from suppliers and evidence of inflated charges. Rare's parents, former executives at the company, had been embezzling funds by overcharging for ingredients and pocketing the excess. The calculation showed embezzled funds totaling about $2 million. Rare had sensed something was wrong and hid the drive, along with some blocks. I can't believe we missed it even after searching the house, Jolie muttered in disbelief. She snatched the flash drive from my hand, looking relieved. I've already informed your company, she declared confidently. But as the reality of her actions sank in, she began to tremble. No, if they find out about the embezzlement, our lives are over, she confessed, her bravado crumbling. Begging for forgiveness, she pleaded with us to help cover up her crimes. But her past actions couldn't be erased. My husband, firm in his resolve, advised against forgiveness. There's nothing more we can do but face reality, he muttered. As Jolie dialed the phone with trembling hands, tears streaking her face, I listened to her conversation with my in-laws. It was a bitter reckoning for them all. They screamed in shock and then asked to speak with me. As soon as I took the phone, my in-laws pleaded, "Please, you have to do something. We're begging you." I listened in silence, but after a moment, I took a deep breath. You must face the consequences of your own actions. Goodbye. With that, I ended the call and returned the smartphone to Jolie. Think about it carefully. If you truly want to raise Rare, I'll consider it. Is that what you really want? I doubt we'll ever see eye to eye, no matter how much we talk. Please leave. Your presence is unwelcome. If you don't, I'll have to involve the authorities. Jolie flinched and backed away, so I firmly shut the door without mercy. Peeking from the second-floor window, I watched as she walked away, her figure fading into the distance. That was the end of our connection. Later on, my in-laws and Jolie were dismissed from the company for their embezzlement. They were sued and eventually arrested. After serving their sentences, they would have to repay the $2 million they stole. Even after their release, they would endure the consequences for a long time. It's true what they say, you reap what you sow. Meanwhile, we officially adopted Rare as our daughter. Jen and I continued to manage our restaurant and witness Rare's growth. Our business thrived, and while the extent of Rare's abilities remained unknown, one thing was certain. Jan and I loved Rare more than anyone else. After all, she was our precious daughter. Pacific Airlines Flight 739 was poised for departure from San Francisco to New York. In the bustling terminal, passengers hurriedly made final adjustments before boarding. Among them was a 7-year-old girl with blonde hair and curious eyes, tightly gripping her father's hand. She wore a light blue dress, a serene contrast to the frenetic airport ambience. Her father, a stern figure, appeared distant, engrossed in his phone. Inside the aircraft, flight attendant Daniel meticulously prepared for takeoff. Tall and exuding a welcoming demeanor, Daniel was renowned for his ability to navigate any situation with poise and courtesy. He traversed the aisles, checking overhead compartments and ensuring passengers were settled. Approaching row 12, Daniel noticed the girl and her father settling into their seats. The girl's gaze met his, her wide eyes revealing a blend of curiosity and something deeper, perhaps a silent plea. Daniel smiled warmly before continuing his rounds, though a lingering sense of unease persisted. As the cabin hummed with chatter and subdued laughter, Daniel returned to the front to conduct safety instructions. His glance returned to the girl's father, now more engrossed in his phone than his daughter. The girl, however, appeared unsettled, her eyes darting around as if seeking an escape or answers. As the cabin doors sealed shut and the aircraft taxied down the runway, Daniel found himself unable to shake thoughts of her. Though he had encountered many children during his flights, there was something uniquely compelling and concerning about her demeanor. Once airborne and the plane stabilized, Daniel resolved to keep a vigilant watch over row 12. What had seemed like a routine journey was poised to unravel into something intricate and unforeseen. Unbeknownst to him, the flight attendant stood on the precipice of a journey that would irrevocably alter both his and the girl's lives. With the flight cruising smoothly, Daniel embarked on his first beverage service round, offering drinks and snacks to the passengers. Approaching row 12, he noted the girl's growing agitation. Her gaze was wide, scanning the cabin as if in search of something or someone. Meanwhile, her father remained absorbed in his phone, oblivious to his daughter's increasingly restless state. When Daniel offered beverages, the girl seized the moment to speak to him. Gently tugging on his uniform sleeve, she whispered urgently, "Sir, can I talk to you?" Daniel crouched down, meeting her eyes with a gentle smile. "Of course, what's on your mind?" he asked kindly. Glancing nervously at her father, the girl hesitated before confiding, "I'm scared. I don't want to be here," tears threatening to spill from her eyes. Before Daniel could respond, the father's cold gaze interrupted. He swiftly pulled his daughter back to her seat, admonishing her firmly, "Don't bother the flight attendant, Emily." Daniel nodded understandingly and withdrew, but concern weighed heavily on his mind. Continuing his duties, he kept a vigilant watch on row 12. Something was amiss, and he was determined to grasp the situation better. Returning discreetly to his station, he observed Emily closely. Soon Daniel noticed Emily engaged in secretive movements, using subtle gestures with her hands, hidden from her father's view. Attempting to discern her message, Daniel found himself unable to fully grasp the meaning. Intrigued and increasingly anxious, he resolved to seek assistance. During a brief respite, Daniel retreated to the galley and phoned Sarah, a fellow team member. "Sarah, I need your insight on something," he began urgently, outlining the situation. Sarah's brow furrowed in concern. She might be trying to communicate something crucial. "You've got to find out what it is without alarming her father." Armed with Sarah's advice, Daniel returned to the aisle. Emily appeared increasingly frantic, her signals more pronounced and urgent. Daniel understood he had to act swiftly yet discreetly. Time was of the essence to uncover what the girl needed to convey before it became too late. With a resolve to assist Emily, Daniel devised a subtle approach. Equipped with a notepad and pen, he pretended to take drink orders as he approached row 12 once more. Near the girl, he covertly penned a message. "Are you in danger?" Shielding the note from her father's view with his body, Daniel showed it to Emily. She glanced at the note, then at Daniel, nodding ever so slightly. A shiver ran down Daniel's spine. He needed more clarity. Continuing his rounds, he discreetly observed Emily from a distance. She resumed her hand signals, this time more distinctly. It took Daniel a moment to decipher, but he eventually pieced together the words she was spelling out in the air: "Help." Confirming his suspicions, Daniel knew swift action was essential. He returned to the galley, briefing Sarah and asking her to cover for him briefly. Sneaking away to a nearby restroom, he waited for an opportune moment when Emily could slip away unnoticed by her father. After a tense few minutes, Emily managed to slip out of her seat and rendezvous with Daniel in the restroom. In the confined space, she finally disclosed, "My dad, he did something bad. I don't want to go with him. I'm scared." Her voice trembled with fear and uncertainty. Daniel comforted her, his tone reassuring. Emily, you're safe now. I need to understand more to help you. What exactly did he do? He inquired gently. With tears streaming down her cheeks, Emily revealed in a hushed tone, he took me without my mom's permission. He said we were moving somewhere far away, and I'd never see her again. Please don't let him take me. Daniel's heart sank, realizing the gravity of the situation. He held Emily close, promising to protect her. Returning to the cabin, Daniel discreetly informed the pilot of the urgent circumstances. The pilot promptly contacted authorities at the destination, arranging for police to meet the flight upon landing. With the wheels in motion for Emily's safety, Daniel reassured her during the remainder of the flight, ensuring she felt secure until they landed. After Emily returned to her seat, Daniel maintained a vigilant watch as the flight progressed. The unfolding mystery heightened the tension on board with each passing minute. As the aircraft continued its journey, Daniel focused intently on row 12, steadfast in his determination to ensure Emily's safety until they reached their destination. Meanwhile, her father remained oblivious, immersed in his phone. Striving to maintain composure, Daniel busied himself by jotting notes in his pad. Swiftly outlining a plan for the flight crew, he emphasized the importance of discreetly monitoring row 12 and keeping a watchful eye on Emily without arousing her father's suspicion. The tension mounted with each passing moment. The flight felt interminable, and Daniel understood that any misstep could further endanger Emily. The weight of responsibility pressed heavily on him, but he was resolute in his determination not to falter. Midway through the flight, unexpected turbulence jolted the plane, causing passengers to grip their seats tightly. Emily looked to Daniel with wide, frightened eyes. He offered a reassuring smile, hoping to convey a sense of safety. Once the turbulence subsided, Daniel noticed Emily's father scrutinizing her more closely, sensing something amiss. Knowing he needed to act swiftly to avoid arousing suspicion, Daniel approached Sarah discreetly. We need to maintain calm. Her father is becoming suspicious, he murmured. Sarah nodded, swiftly engaging nearby passengers to divert attention from any potential concerns. Returning to row 12, Daniel brought a cup of juice for Emily. Here, this might help you feel better, he said softly, offering her the cup with a warm smile. Emily accepted it gratefully, offering a small smile in return. As Daniel moved away, a fleeting sense of relief washed over him, though he remained vigilant, knowing he must be prepared for any contingency. Approaching the cockpit once more, Daniel briefed the pilot on the urgency of preparing for a swift and discreet disembarkation upon landing. With the presence of law enforcement waiting, the ensuing hours were fraught with tension. Daniel and the crew orchestrated their actions seamlessly, camouflaging their intentions within routine tasks. Each passing minute seemed to stretch into eternity, yet the plan was underway. With each coordinated step, Daniel clung to the hope that they could resolve everything safely despite the looming threat. As the flight approached its final destination, Daniel observed Emily growing increasingly agitated. Though her father remained absorbed in his phone, occasional suspicious glances toward Emily betrayed his growing concern. Daniel understood they were running out of time and needed to proceed cautiously. He sought out Sarah, who was serving coffee at the rear of the plane, and spoke urgently. Sarah, we need a plan to separate Emily from her father as soon as we land. We can't afford to wait for the police. We have to move swiftly. Sarah paused for a moment, considering her options. We can use the disembarkation process as a distraction, she proposed. I'll announce a technical issue that requires everyone to exit quickly. It should create enough confusion to separate Emily from her father. Daniel nodded in agreement, recognizing the strategy's potential effectiveness. He returned to monitoring row 12, ready to act. As the plane commenced its descent, Daniel discreetly prepared for their next move. Leaning closer to Emily, he whispered, Emily, when we land, we need to move swiftly. Trust me, I'll keep you safe. Emily nodded, her face a mix of apprehension and tentative trust. Daniel returned to his post, nervously anticipating the landing. When the aircraft touched down, Daniel felt a surge of relief and adrenaline. The plan was underway. Sarah's announcement prompted passengers to hustle toward the exits with heightened urgency. Emily's father stood, clutching her hand tightly. Moving swiftly, Daniel approached them and calmly intervened. Sir, let me assist your daughter with disembarking. It'll be quicker and safer for everyone. The father hesitated briefly, but amidst the commotion, he reluctantly acquiesced. Daniel grasped Emily's hand firmly and guided her towards the front of the plane, his pulse racing with urgency. Every moment was critical. As they disembarked, a discreet group of undercover police officers, masquerading as airport personnel, stood ready. Daniel entrusted Emily into the care of one of the officers before turning back to confront her father, who was beginning to comprehend the unfolding situation. "What's going on?" the father demanded, suspicion etched in his voice. Daniel remained composed, replying firmly, "We're ensuring everyone's safety, sir. Please come with me." With swift coordination, the police moved in to apprehend Emily's father, detailing the circumstances while Daniel escorted the girl away. Emily glanced back at Daniel, still apprehensive but visibly relieved to be away from her father's grasp. Watching her being escorted to safety, Daniel felt a rush of relief flood over him. The most challenging part was behind them, yet there remained much to resolve. The revelations surrounding Emily's father and his actions had altered everything. Now, Daniel was committed to ensuring Emily's continued safety and seeing justice served. The organized chaos of disembarkation began to dissipate as passengers were directed towards the terminal. Daniel watched intently as undercover police officers escorted Emily's father to a secure area. Suddenly, the father realized what was happening and tried to break free, shouting angrily, "You can't do this. She's my daughter." Emily, hearing her father's voice, cowered behind Daniel, who stood protectively in front of her. "Please stay calm, sir. The authorities will explain everything," Daniel said, attempting to defuse the situation. But the father was uncooperative. He struggled and managed to break free from one of the officers, advancing towards Emily with a furious expression. The surrounding passengers began to step back, frightened. Without hesitation, Daniel placed himself between the father and Emily. "Stop. Don't make this worse," he said firmly and authoritatively. The father hesitated for a moment, but his rage seemed uncontrollable. He tried to push Daniel aside, but before he could advance, the police tackled him to the ground, quickly handcuffing him. "This is a mistake," he yelled. "She's my daughter." As the father was taken away, Daniel knelt beside Emily, who was crying silently. "You're safe now. Everything will be okay," he said gently and reassuringly. Emily looked at him, her eyes filled with gratitude and fear. Daniel hugged her, offering the comfort she desperately needed. He knew she was about to face a whirlwind of emotions and that her life was about to change forever. Moments later, a police officer returned to talk to Daniel. "Thank you for your help. We'll take care of Emily and ensure her safety. You might need to give a statement about what happened during the flight," the officer said. Daniel nodded. "Of course. I'll do whatever is necessary," Daniel said as the police led Emily to a safe area. He felt a mix of relief and exhaustion. The situation had been intense and dangerous, but he knew he had done the right thing. Watching Emily disappear with the police, he realized there was still more to be done to ensure her safety and justice. The confrontation had been the most intense moment of his career, but also the most rewarding. Just as he was about to leave the security area, one of the officers called him. "Sir, can you please come with us? We need a bit more information," the officer said politely but firmly. Daniel agreed and was taken into a room where Emily was sitting with a social worker. The girl looked more relaxed but still showed signs of fatigue and fear. The social worker motioned for Daniel to sit down. "Emily has told us part of what happened, but we'd like to hear your version as well," the social worker said. Daniel nodded and began to recount the events of the flight, from the moment he noticed Emily's strange behavior to the confrontation with her father. He explained how the girl signaled for help and how he and the crew devised a plan to ensure her safety. As he spoke, Emily held the social worker's hand for comfort. The officer took detailed notes, and the social worker occasionally interrupted with more specific questions. "Did you notice any other suspicious or dangerous behavior from the father during the flight?" the social worker asked. Daniel thought for a moment. He seemed completely disinterested in his daughter, focused only on his phone. But the look he gave her when he realized we were interacting, it was scary. He seemed more irritated than concerned. The officer finished his notes and thanked Daniel for his cooperation. As he stood to leave, Emily called to him in a soft voice. "Daniel, thank you," she said, her eyes filled with gratitude. Daniel smiled at her, feeling a wave of emotion. "You were very brave, Emily. Everything will be okay now." As he left the room, Daniel felt the weight of the situation begin to lift. But just as he thought everything was under control, an alarm blared through the terminal. A commotion erupted with people running and shouting. "What's happening?" he asked one of the guards. There was an escape attempt. Emily's father tried to escape custody, the guard replied, clearly agitated. Daniel's heart raced. He ran back to the room where Emily was. He saw the girl was safe with the social worker and 2 officers, but her father was nowhere in sight. "We need to reinforce security here. He can't get near her again," Daniel said, trying to stay calm. The terminal was in chaos, but the police quickly organized a search. After tense moments and a frantic hunt, they finally located Emily's father hiding in a restricted area. He was restrained again, this time with reinforced security. With Emily's father finally detained and taken away, Daniel felt a wave of relief. He returned to the room where Emily was now accompanied by a group of professionals, including social workers and child psychologists. "Emily, you're safe now," said one of the social workers with a warm smile. "We'll take care of you and make sure everything is all right." Emily looked at Daniel, still holding his hand. There was a silent connection between them, a mutual understanding of what they had gone through together. "Daniel, thank you for everything," she said, her voice soft but full of sincerity. Daniel smiled, crouching down to her level. "You were very brave, Emily. Always remember that." As Emily was led away, Daniel felt satisfaction but also exhaustion. He knew he had done everything in his power to protect that girl. As he watched the team take Emily, one of the officers approached him. "You did a great job today, Daniel. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't noticed the signs," said the officer. "Just did what anyone would do," Daniel replied modestly. Later in the terminal, Daniel saw a woman approaching quickly, her eyes filled with worry and tears. It was Emily's mother. When she saw her daughter, she ran to hug her, holding her tightly. "Emily, my God, are you okay?" she said, her voice choked with emotion. Emily clung to her mother, crying but this time with tears of relief and joy. "I'm okay, Mom. Daniel helped me." The mother looked at Daniel with infinite gratitude. "Thank you. You saved my daughter," she said emotionally. Daniel nodded, feeling touched by the moment. "She's a very special girl. I'm glad I could help." As the mother and daughter reunited, Daniel felt a deep sense of accomplishment. He knew Emily was in good hands and that the situation, despite how difficult it had been, was finally resolved. Walking towards the terminal exit, he felt the day's weight begin to dissipate. The night sky was clear, and he took a deep breath, reflecting on the events that had unfolded. Despite the challenges and dangers, the courage and determination of a little girl, combined with the quick actions of a flight attendant, had changed the course of her life. As he left the airport, Daniel knew that this experience would stay with him forever, a reminder that even in the most difficult moments, it's possible to make a difference and bring safety and